Hello, everybody. I hope you're keeping well. It's been a while. It's been a while, a while, a while, a while, a while. And I'm back. I am back. So, hope you guys are keeping well. And I hope you're nice and healthy. Looking after your mental health, looking after yourselves, looking after your family. It's been a really interesting time here on planet Earth. We have our first comment from Tara Spence. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Glad you're still alive, brother. Is your health okay? My health is very good. Thank you very much, Tara, for checking in on me. I've been taking some time to heal, and I'm feeling better than I've felt in a very, very, very long time. Unfortunately, as I had stated, I had gone through a prolonged period of psychosis, which ultimately turned into schizophrenia, which included auditory and visual hallucinations. Very, very, very profound stuff, which I first thought was just completely and totally supernatural. We've got our second comment here from Secretary. Cheers, brother. Peace be with you. Great to see you again, Jesse. Thank you so much. It's reading comments like that, which make me feel very happy and super optimistic about where I can take this channel again. Since this is a new channel, it's an up and coming channel. If you haven't done it already, please do it now. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you'll be able to be part of many more warm and comfortable live streams that I'll be having here with you guys, where we'll be able to talk. We've got another comment from Secretary saying, I missed you, bro. I've been praying for you. Thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for taking the time to actually share a lovely message like that. I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. It's been one heck of a roller coaster, guys. And if you guys would like to join the live stream to be one of my talk show guests as I host today's talk show, you're absolutely more than welcome. I just want to look at some of the topics that I want to go ahead and speak about. Before I do that, I just want to go back to another comment from Secretary. Amen. I appreciate you too, brother. I appreciate you too, my man. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all of your support. So, let's have a little look at some of the conversational topics that we will go through today. It's an open ended discussion. And some of the things I want to go through are, do you believe in destiny, predetermination, and why? Do you believe in life after death? If so, or if not, why? Do you believe in psychic abilities and why? And do you believe in hell? I mean, do you believe hell is evil? Sorry, there's a bit of a typo there. But do you believe hell is evil? And if you do believe it's evil, why? And if you don't believe it's evil, why? We're going to go through some of these topics. This is just a conversational guideline. As you know, we're going to be speaking about a couple of things. Some of the things we're going to speak about are not really going to be found on here. So let's get straight into it, shall we? So let me know if you can hear some music. I just want to play some music in the background. Makes a bit of a soothing ambience. It helps me focus a little bit easier as we go ahead and do what we're about to do. So, since I've gone through this whole experience of being through a immense amount of psychosis, experiencing visual and auditory hallucinations, I've had a lot of questions since I've been in this healing journey of healing this schizophrenia and ultimately dissociative identity disorder. I've managed to be able to go through this illness, or this variation of illnesses, from a unique first-hand perspective, which has helped me to look at reality in many new ways. It got me to ask a whole lot of questions about the nature of our reality, the nature of religion, the nature of the human mind. I mean, for me, to be able to see visions on a graphic imagery before me, as well as hearing us, it sounds very choppy. Can you hear my audio fine? Hopefully, my audio isn't too choppy. Hopefully, the audio is nice and clear. And hopefully, the audio isn't too choppy. Turn that down a little. I think your mic is too far. No, it's better. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Giving me the updates always helps having you guys here. Now it's better. That's good to hear. Let me just take this pop mic off since I don't think I actually need it. Maybe I'll just press it over here. Let's try this. Just the mic. A little bit. Good when you're near the mic. Excellent. Well, that's good news to hear. Turn the mic a little bit closer to my face. Hopefully you can still see my face. So yeah, guys, it's been one heck of a journey. Uh, Subsequent byproduct of this journey has ultimately been developing, as I said, various mental illnesses. To name a few, prolonged psychosis, schizophrenia, and the dissociative identity disorder, otherwise known as multiple personality disorder. Now, there's a lot of stuff I want to speak about, but basically, what I want to say is that after seeing all of the visions, after hearing voices, and after eventually trying to figure out what was happening and figuring out that it was ultimately schizophrenia, I have a lot more questions to ask. For instance, I've got questions to do with life after death. I've got questions to do. It's good for a bit, then it's muffled again, brother. Okay, well, let me turn that off. Maybe that's a little bit better. I've got some questions. Let me know if that's better. Maybe I'll just put the background music off, and that's just going to be a lot better stream. And if that is better, please let me know. Because according to Secretary, he's saying that, Jesse, it's good for a bit, then it's muffled again, brother. Oh, I'm sorry about that. There we go. Okay, good. Now we're good to go. Excellent. Sounds excellent now. Thank you very much. So, for a future note, I can't really be playing any background music, but that's okay. So, and thank you very much for your feedback. I really do appreciate that. So, since, as I said, experiencing auditory and visual hallucinations, which I initially thought was demonic possession, and I thought I was ultimately hearing the voice of demons, and at times the voice of God and the voice of angels, but only to find out that ultimately it was schizophrenia. And it is schizophrenia, which is currently being treated right now by taking a lot of time to relax, properly diagnosing the illness by realizing the symptoms and realizing what I actually have, and then taking the appropriate medication, just some mild antipsychotics, which have been helping since I'm not hearing the voices anymore. Every now and again, I hear them, and I notice I hear them when I'm under increased pressure or stress. There are certain triggers in my psyche that cause this phenomenon to take place and occur. And in having experiences from a first-handed perspective, I have ultimately asked myself the question, since I've deduced that it is no longer demons, no longer some sort of supernatural experience, although it does feel quite supernatural at times, because at times I have visions of little snippets of things that may happen in the future, which was a bit scary because not all of the visions I've had are good, but not all of the visions are accurately representative of what shall occur in the future, which is what I've had to piece together in order to give myself a increased peace of mind. But in having experienced all of this and initially deducing that it was some sort of psychic phenomenon, and looking at much information within regards to mental illness, disease, schizophrenia, and even delving into the likes of Carl Jung in order to understand the psyche, in order to understand the collective unconscious mind, in order to understand this imagery, it was that I was seeing with subtle psychic activity, which seems to be have taken place. Secretary says, "Do you dream much, Jesse? If you're able, if so, you're able to remember your dreams." Yes, I do dream quite a lot, especially after all of this. And I do remember my dreams. Sometimes they're completely horrific dreams, especially during the peak of this phenomenon, as it was extremely terrifying and quite horrible. But now that I've been able to find out that it is actually, not some sort of psychic phenomenon, but instead it actually is a mental, it's auditory and visual hallucinations. So it's got me to ask questions, because in having to heal this, I did a lot of research to do with the Bible. I did a lot of research within regards to religion, within regards to life after death, and near death experiences. Because during this process of hearing these voices, many things were proposed to me when hearing these auditory hallucinations and the conversations in which it is that they had presented. And they had presented many questions to me. And some of the questions we're going to be going through today, for instance, one of the questions being, is hell evil? You know, which I absolutely do think it is. And we'll get into that a little later. But obviously, when you go through such a phenomenon and you're hearing things which you at first think is spiritual, and eventually you find out this is an emanative byproduct of your subconscious mind, which is somehow powerful enough to bring the dream world into your waking state, to actually converse with you, create an entity that speaks to you and communicates to you and proposes and presents ideas in which it is that you had never consciously brought to the forefront, but maybe have had in your subconscious mind lingering in the background. Like certain questions that we may deal with as subconscious fears that the subconscious collective mind of humans here on earth may happen to deal with. One of them being, what happens after you die? Another one being, is hell real? If there's life after death, does something like hell exist? Which is an exceptionally scary and horrific construct and concept. So I did a lot of research. I did a lot of research into the Bible. I did a lot of research into hell. I did a lot of research into mythology, to find out where these ideas came from exactly and was its root, particularly within the Bible. And to my surprise, I had seen that the idea of eternal torment and hell had only been introduced approximately 400 years AD, after the supposed death and resurrection of Lord Jesus Christ. And by a clergyman or church father known as Saint Augustine, around about the same time that Dante's Inferno had come out, which is a poetic novel within regards to somebody's visualization of different levels and layers of hell and torture and punishment that last for eternity. And what I had done and researched, I researched the etymological origins of certain words like eternity. Eternity was never really a word that was actually found within the Bible. It is derived from a word that refers to ages or aeon, which refers to an age or ages. It doesn't actually, the concept of eternity wasn't really introduced into the Bible until 400 AD, especially eternal hellfire, which is an extremely horrific concept and construct that people do not really want to tackle because of the religious stigma and dogma that surrounds these certain issues. And I'm going to sound quite heretical as a heretic. I think that's the correct word, heretic. I'm not so sure. Secretary says, I was struggling very much with addiction and going to VA programming and rehabilitation, but nothing was able to help me once I started learning about dreams. And so, Secretary, how are you dealing with your addiction now? I hope you're managing it. If you don't mind me asking, I hope I'm not intruding too much or asking too much of a personal question, but what have you been addicted to? I'm going to ask that as sensitively as possible. And how are you managing that? Are you fine now? And I will keep you in my prayers. So, One of these things in my mind, in the back of my mind, was the concept and idea of eternal hellfire, which I had to religiously research into in order to find out if it's real or not and where it comes from. And I'd found out that it was only introduced 500 years after Christ's death, because in the Old Testament, it was never really mentioned. Instead, the concept of Sheol, the realm of the dead, the void of silent darkness, the realm of the dead, which was also has a Greek etymological origin, otherwise known as Tartarus, which has the same sort of interpretation. So, this idea of torment and suffering and pain was never really introduced, and not even by the early church fathers before the first Bible, I suppose, had been put together, which ultimately was 70 years AD, and then had been heavily formulated about 400 years AD. And then these concepts by St. Augustine were introduced of eternal hellfire. And then I even wondered even further of, ideas of Satan and Lucifer, and I did more research. And it's quite strange when you actually read the Bible. There's so many things you realize that you were being taught incorrectly. For instance, you know, people had ultimately the Bible only speaks about a war in heaven at the end of the Bible, which was a huge misinterpretation I had. Lucifer is not even related to Satan. The snake in the beginning of the Bible is not relative to Satan. I suppose it's only referenced with the mention of Satan, the deceiver. But the Bible gets more convoluted and complicated with the arrival of Jesus, when he had essentially come back. He had said that he basically insinuated that the God in which it was that the Jews had believed in, which was a God of evil, a God who cursed, a God who was not loving, a God who he did not relate to, a God which he was not speaking about. He was speaking about a loving God. But, it's interesting because when we look at the conception of Christianity, we see that it was actually created and put together by the Catholic Church. Jesus did not create Christianity. The 12 disciples did not create Christianity. In fact, they didn't even write the gospel, which is what's quite crazy. They actually didn't even write the gospel. And the gospel wasn't put together until 70 years after Christ's purported death. So it's quite interesting when you start actually doing research, you find all these things that I believe that the Roman Catholic Church is ultimately hiding and potentially misinterpreting. They must be hiding stuff because they're the ones who had chosen the 66 books to appear within the Bible. Secretary says, I'm over 1 year from serious fentanyl and crack cocaine addiction now. I'm in recovery, doing a lot better. This is the most difficult year of my life. I know God is building up. I'm so sorry to hear that, brother. I've actually, your story relates to me. I had to stop marijuana. I'm about to slow down on smoking cigarettes. And you have to stay away from that, and you really have to put yourself first, man. And you got to you got to value yourself as much as possible to ensure that you value yourself enough to look after yourself. And well done for making it past 1 year. I'm really proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself too. I think it's absolutely phenomenal to hear a story like that where somebody recovers and makes a healthy and progressive and sturdy and steady comeback, as I'm attempting to do now. And as I am doing now, as I've actually healed and am in the process of healing. So healing does take place. It is something that is relative. It is something that's true. And it's something that should not be taken for granted. Life is good now. It was just a rough year. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I feel I relate to what you're saying because the last year for me has been incredibly tough as well, as I've been dealing with my own issues of auditory and visual hallucinations as well as ongoing psychosis, which is currently calmed down now. Mary Boyd says the Vatican stole scriptures from the Bible that will be revealed. Everything that they have taught and told us is lies. I'm so excited to learn everything over again. And I feel exactly the same way. The definition of a cult means hidden. So an occult religion is a religion that has things that are hidden. Now, with the Vatican having a library, a huge, massive underground resource, which not even the Pope or any Pope has been allowed to visit, ultimately suggests and proves that Christianity is a cult religion, especially with the exclusion of certain books in the Bible, as well as the church holding authority over the religious scripture as well as the teaching of the scripture. You know that English Bible was only introduced around about 1536 by a theologian based in the UK who was ultimately translating the Latin scriptures to to English, which the Roman Catholic Church had a huge problem with. But he actually managed to do it thanks to this man, Tinsdale. I think Tyndale, that's his name, not Tinsdale, Tyndale. That's his surname. He risked his life and actually ended up being a martyr and ended up getting killed by the Roman Catholic Church. And people who were reading his Bible, which was a translation, because nobody had an English version of the Bible. They were only taught by the Catholic churches and other churches at the time. Because the Vatican wanted to remain the sole authority of teaching people in this religious indoctrination process. And it's funny because the Roman Catholic Church went against what Jesus had ultimately prohibited, which was calling anyone here on earth father, because at certain points in time, certain popes were considered to be God and called father. To this day, religious priests are called father, which is quite strange because the Bible tells you that you should regard no one on earth as your father. Quite interesting. Sacred Terrace says, I was in Rome last winter and they had a museum tours open when I was there, and my uncle said it was the first time he'd seen it open to the public. Tara says, when the Bible said God knows the future, yet had Abraham sacrificed his child to prove himself, the Bible says God knows our heart. See, so that's a very good point, Tara. The Bible has many contradictions found throughout it. In the Old Testament, we have what gets presented as quite a misogynistic, impulsive, tempestuous, and repentant and angry God, which Jesus had come to clear the record, and the tonality of the New Testament was so completely entirely different. This God that was being described was so different towards the God that was being described in the Old Testament. So it opens a whole can of worms and it opens a whole lot of questions about Christianity, especially from someone's perspective and experience like myself, who has found out that these auditory and visual hallucinations are ultimately a byproduct of a mental illness through my brain experiencing schizophrenia. And I've done research into schizophrenia to see that you can actually see the difference between a person's brain who has schizophrenia and a normal person's brain. Usually, it's constriction in gray matter within the brain and certain tension and neurological damaging and misfiring that happens to create these experiences of these hallucinations. So, experiencing that from a first-handed perspective got me to ask, well, what are demons? Are demons mental illness? Is it mental disease? Because what I thought or I was speaking to demons actually turns out to be a subconscious byproduct of my mind, because the mind's very powerful. When you go to bed and you sleep, you dream. Your mind creates all these dreams. And what happens with schizophrenia is your dreaming reality comes into your waking state, because that's psychosis and that's sleep deprivation, or sleep deprivation being one of the factors within psychosis, which is why crack cocaine can actually cause that. Or crack, I wasn't on any hard drugs. It's just smoking marijuana, which I've stopped doing. But I was under heavy amounts of pressure, stress, and this mental illness does actually exist within my family. But it seems to be healing in me now, which is such a relief because some people have had to battle this for 20 years before it's actually stopped or effectively and properly healed. So it's quite a scary and terrifying disease because a lot of these people's delusions and hallucinations relate to things like hell, relate to things like God and angels and demons. And what you find is when they do take their medication, these auditory and visual hallucinations start to go away. So these are people that are thinking they're hearing the voice of God, thinking they're hearing the voice of demons and angels, but then all of a sudden, when they start taking the correct medication, in a lot of cases, these voices go away. And you ask yourself, and the brain begins to undergo a healing process where the patient begins to calm down, and the psychosis and paranoid schizophrenic delusions begin to slow down. And the more calm you become, the easier it is for your brain to heal. You may not have schizophrenia, but you may have bipolar disorder. You may have a state of nervousness or even addiction or impulsive behavior, which is ultimately caused by it's these are neurological issues. And I believe in paying very close attention to people around me. I believe the whole world has a mental illness on one level or another. Some people's illnesses are just more pronounced than others, whether it be depression, bipolar disorder, mania, obsessive compulsive disorder. Any of these titles we've used to ultimately classify these different neurotic behavioral tendencies. Even what I notice, people touch themselves. They touch their face, or they scratch their head, or they wipe their face. I paid close attention to myself as a subject, and I'd noticed that these face touching is a form of neurosis. It's a neurological and physiological issue, which is understandable that all of Earth has because we live in a very stressful climate and condition with very little answers given to us about very pronounced questions that tackle very important issues like life after death, like the idea of a creator, like the idea of our destiny, the idea of our own predetermined outcome within regards to our life. And so predetermination is one of the things we're going to speak about, and destiny is one of the things we're going to speak about, which is quite an interesting concept, the way I've had a chance to actually look at it and tackle it from a completely, entirely new perspective. Before I get into that, I would like to say that what if hell does not exist? What if Satan does not exist? What if demons do not exist? Because after going through this experience and thinking it was demonic and thinking it was spiritual warfare, I found out that it was actually a subsequent byproduct of prolonged psychosis and mental trauma, which had resulted in psychosis and schizophrenia and a heavy dissociative identity disorder with confused speech and hallucinations. And some of these hallucinations being precognitive hallucinations, but maybe 10% of the hallucinations, 20%. So, I begin to ask myself, well, is this what Earth's going through? Because a lot of people are claiming to speak to spirits, speaking to this and that, and I don't think they are, to be honest with you. After going through what I've gone through, I have an entirely new perspective on this whole matter at hand. And I feel liberated. I've had to deconstruct certain things that the Roman Catholic Church has put in place into our collective psyche, which is the idea of being punished for being alive, which is the idea of being unworthy, which is the idea of being a sinner born into flesh. Because a lot of humans and Earth in general are dealing with huge themes of shame, themes of guilt, themes of fear of punishment, which the Bible happens to contradict. On the one hand, is we're being persecuted by the Bible. On the other hand, we're being told to be free from these persecutions. For instance, there's a Bible verse that says that fear is fear of punishment and ultimately does not come from God. So there's such contradictory statements because, on the one hand, we're being told our Creator is a benevolent deity, but on the other hand, we're being told that He punishes people for all eternity. So let's just go back over here for a second. I know there's a little bit of a typo, but let's just go here for a second. Conversation topics. Do you believe in destiny, predetermination, and why? Do you believe in life or death, and why? Do you believe in psychic abilities, and why? And do you believe hell is evil, and why? So we're going to go through this. Okay. Let's go through this together. Okay. So first of all, do I believe in destiny? Yes, I do believe in destiny because I believe in predetermination. If I had to ask myself 4 years ago, what would I be doing on this very day right now, on this specific date, the 15th of the 8th, 2024? And if I could tell you that I'd be sitting here doing a live stream speaking about predetermination and destiny, well, then I would have proved right then and there that predetermination is real because it was inevitable that I'd be doing this right now. And if it wasn't inevitable, I wouldn't be doing it. This wouldn't be happening right now. This conversation, this live stream, this realization, and this revelation wouldn't be happening. So, in a way, our lives seem to be somewhat predetermined. We seem to have destiny. Destiny is unavoidable. Predetermination is unavoidable. If I could have a vision of what I'm doing 4 years from now on this exact date, 2028, 2029, I'm not exactly sure. Let's say 2028, on this exact date, what will I be doing? And I'm going to keep this live video here because whatever I'm going to end up doing is ultimately somewhat predetermined. It's ultimately my destiny. Whatever I will be doing in 4 years from now to this exact date is somewhat predetermined. And I don't like the idea of predetermination, but what I'm saying is that it kind of does seem like it is predetermined because whatever I'm going to end up doing in exactly 4 years from now is what I'll end up doing. It's inevitable, it's unavoidable, and it is going to take place one way or another. And therefore, that is my destiny. Whatever my destiny is what my destiny will be. Whatever my predetermined fate is what my predetermined fate will be. And I hate to use the word predetermination because I like to believe we are in charge of our own life. And we are in charge of our own life because we make choices, we make decisions, we guide and counsel ourselves, and we gain wisdom and knowledge in order to inform our choices, inform our decisions, which will ultimately guide us to our next location, our next seemingly predetermined destination. If you learn more about love and you learn to be more loving, you learn to be more kind, you learn to heal yourself, learn to heal others, you're ultimately going to influence your seemingly predetermined outcome. Your destiny is being influenced by the choices you make today. So, on the one hand, I believe in predetermination, but on the other hand, I don't actually like that word. I don't think anything is predetermined. I think it's determined by the choices we make now. But it kind of seems like it is predetermined because whatever is going to end up happening is what will end up happening. And it gives me a weird feeling when I say predetermination. I don't really like it. I feel like we are the determiners of our fate, but I think destiny is a better word. And so maybe our destiny right now is to have this conversation and to think a little bit more clearly about how it is that our choices are going to inform and guide and direct us into the future. The next thing is, do you believe in life after death? If there is life after death, then that is part of our destiny. In a way, it is part of our predetermined fate. Will we keep living after we die? Because when you start asking all these questions about, is hell real? Is eternal punishment real? Is heaven real? Because remember, hell and purgatory were only introduced into the church about 400 AD, after death. And my next question is, do you believe in psychic abilities and why? I seem to, because what I've experienced are precognitive visions, where I've seen things in the future before they've happened. And I've also experienced precognitive dreams. I believe many people have. I always ask people the question, have you experienced a precognitive dream? Have you dreamed something indicative of a future event or something before it happened? And do you believe hell is evil? I do believe hell is evil. I believe hell is somehow created by the church as well as this idea of Satan, because Satan When taken back to its Hebrew etymological origin, it means the accuser. It's a title more than it is referring to a being, an accuser. That's what it's referring to. This idea of evil is quite terrifying and it's quite scary. And this idea of eternal torment and hellfire is evil. But as I said, the idea of purgatory and hell was only introduced 400 AD. The early church fathers never even taught it. That it wasn't even a concept that had crossed their mind. So I'm wondering, has the Catholic Church gone ahead and actually introduced this into the Bible? Because we have statements from the Pope saying that hell is a state of mind. Why is the Pope making a statement like that? The same Pope that cannot go visit the record the Vatican has of massive amounts of books and many excluded books and letters that did not make its way into the Bible because the authority of the Bible was ultimately the Roman Catholic Church. And when people didn't agree with them, they killed them, they hunt them down, and they burnt them alive or they decapitated them. So it's quite strange to think that the people that are determining our religious beliefs and the context of this Bible are the same ones that supposedly killed Jesus and are the same ones that killed many people after it in order to, they hijacked religion and they went ahead and what did they do? They hijacked religion and they actually constructed the Bible. That's what they literally did. They excluded books, they included books, and they very well may have actually edited it, and they were responsible for many mistranslations. There's a lot of words within the Bible translated from Aramaic, Greek, Hebrew into Latin, and then eventually translated into English. And a lot of people are actually still to this very day uh, correcting the Bible's translations. So the Bible has a lot of mistranslations. Eternal hellfire is being one of them. Eternal hellfire is actually a etymological mistranslation. Etymological meaning the meaning and the origin of a word's meaning as it's been translated from ancient languages into our new current English language. So you have to remember, like, to translate Aramaic and Hebrew, we don't even know if we're completely totally accurate because this is passed down through oral and written tradition of translating words that had previously held meanings which have changed and been augmented over time. As I said, eternity was never ever mentioned in the Bible. It was actually the etymological origin was age or ages. Eternity, eternal hellfire never existed in the Bible. But through etymological mistranslations, that's ultimately what's happened. And there's some really good links and videos that I'd like to go through when you get the chance. I wonder if I can actually find them, but I'm actually going to share them on my Patreon channel. I'm going to share some videos with you on there that are going to actually give you unbelievable perspective of the Bible's history and the some very pressing and heretical concepts. Because for me to say hell doesn't exist, I'm being a heretic. For me to say Satan doesn't exist, I'm being a heretic. And when you start doing more research into this stuff, you see that a lot of the Bible was influenced by pagan traditions, especially the Old Testament, influenced by Greek pagan traditions and ancient pagan traditions and cultures. And for someone like me who's experienced schizophrenia, auditory, and visual hallucinations, you start wondering, did anyone ever speak to a demon? Do demons actually exist? Because to me, it just seems like poor design to have some invisible realm that's interfering and meddling with our day to day lives, as if life isn't hard enough as it stands right now. Having to earn money, having to earn a job, living in a climate where you have to be safe and protected, where you worry about your health of yourself and your family, where you worry about things like wars, things like illness, sickness, and disease, things like your government. So many things that bring us so much stress and pressure in our mind. Living on earth is very stressful. It's scary. For the most part, you don't know what's going to happen. You have no clue what's going to happen. You just hope for the best and you pray for the best. And that's what we do. That's what we're forced to do. And I just think to myself, it would be so much nicer if the church came out and said, listen, by the way, guys, hell does not exist. It was actually a complete and total mistranslation. It's introduced by someone like St. Augustine, used as a threat towards people that did not agree with their theological interpretation of the Bible, which is actually a historical fact, what I'm saying right now, which is quite scary to think. That these concepts that are plaguing our collective mind and unconscious and adding extra invisible forces and stresses and pressures into our psyche, which is the most delicate aspect of our humanity, is our psyche, as Carl Jung so famously said. Our psyche is absolutely delicate. And it is absolutely dangerous, because if you break the human psyche, you can break society. You can break civilization. And we have a psyche of past and prolonged traumas, whether it be poverty, whether it be illness, sickness, war, slavery, oppression, whether societally or from government. I mean, let's look at the Salem witch trials. A whole bunch of women were burnt because of the Bible. Were they witches? Does magic even exist? Either way, they were burnt alive because of it. Some people were believed to be possessed by demons. Do they just have a mental illness? Is that what people looked at mental illness back in the day? They said, this is demonic. These are some invisible forces which are affecting our day-to-day life. But what if the church came forward and said, well, listen, hell doesn't exist, which it has already. The current Pope had pronounced that hell is a state of mind. So the question is, what does he know? I've heard certain church fathers come out and say that hell was a creation by the church, and I actually want to go ahead and show you something like that. Let's do that real quick. Hell created by the church. I mean, this is a retired bishop, and this is... And we have all these wars.
I don't think hell exists. I happen to believe in life after death, but I don't think it's got a thing to do with reward and punishment. Religion is always in the control business. And that's something people don't really understand. It's in the guilt-producing control business. And if you have heaven as a place where you're rewarded for your goodness and hell as a place where you're punished for your evil, then you sort of have control of the population. And so they create this fiery place, which has quite literally scared the hell out of a lot of people throughout Christian history. Mm-hmm. And it's part of a control tactic.
But wait a minute, you're saying that hell, the idea of a place under the earth or somewhere where you're tormented for an eternity, is actually an invention of the church?
I think the church fired its furnaces hotter than anybody else. But I think there's a sense in most religious life of reward and punishment in some form. The church doesn't like for people to grow up, because you can't control grown-ups. That's why we talk about being born again. When you're born again, you're still a child. The people don't need to be born again. They need to grow up. They need to accept their responsibility for themselves and the world.
What do you make of the theology, which is quite prominent these days in America, which is that there is one guaranteed way not to go to hell, and that is to accept Jesus as your personal Savior?
Yeah, I grew up in that tradition. Every church I know claims that we are the true church, and they have some ultimate authority. We have the infallible Pope, we have the inerrant Bible. The idea that the truth of God can be bound in any human system, by any human creed, by any human book, is almost beyond imagination for me. I mean, God is not a Christian. God is not a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist. All of those are human systems which human beings have created to try to help us walk into the mystery of God. I honor my tradition. I walk through my tradition. But I don't believe my tradition defines God. I think it only points me to God.
You and I are emerging people, not fallen people. Our problem is not that we are born in sin. Our problem is we do not yet know how to achieve being fully human. The function of the Christ is not to rescue the sinners, but to empower you and to call you to be more deeply and fully human than you've ever realized there was the potential within you to be. Maybe salvation needs to be conveyed in terms of enhancing your humanity rather than rescuing you from it.
Life is a startling and wondrous experience. And eventually, I think we're going to discover that God is unfolding through the life of our consciousness and our self-consciousness and is not a parent figure up in the sky. But I believe because I'm related to something that is not bound by time and space, that I will share in whatever God's eternity is.
Wow, quite powerful words said by this man. Super duper powerful stuff. And he'd be titled as a heretic. He would be, classified as a heretic. Said we gotta be. Remember that Jesus spoke, "You may not believe in me, you may not believe in my Father, but woe to the man who doesn't believe in the Holy Spirit." Unbelievable. So, I mean, it's quite incredible to actually see this. Let me know if you can hear me, if you're having any interruptions with audio. Just a minute. So that's where we're at. I think it's very important for our collective unconscious mind to be liberated from such terrible constructs that may not even be true. I believe in eternal life. We can go back to these questions over here. We can see, do you believe in hell is evil? Yeah, I believe it's a creation of the church. As he said, no one fired the furnaces hotter than the church, the Roman Catholic Church. You believe in after death? I do, and I will get into that. That's one of the last topics I want to get into. And that relates to this other one, which is to believe in psychic abilities and why. So if you have ever had a precognitive dream or precognitive vision, you would have dreamt or had a vision of something before it actually happened. And how is that possible if our consciousness is just within our body? How are we seeing something outside of time and space before it happens if our consciousness is just within our body? How do people have near-death experiences? How do they leave their body? My mom is one of these people who, I think in a C-section, actually died and left her body. So how is this even possible? How is it possible that people can leave their body and live? Our consciousness is just limited to. So that's why I do believe in life after death, because I don't believe our consciousness is held within our body. I believe it's spiritual. That's when I refer to spirituality, I'm referring to the fact that somehow our consciousness, reflection of ourselves and our memory is not limited towards our body, limited towards our brain. And it's funny because we have these physical brains, and this is how we exist, but our body. And I think on one level we're evolving. I think we're evolving. Also, it's a spiritual gift. Very real. All the gifts can be given. True faith. I know it's real. I have experienced it my whole life, especially now with dreams. I So, very interesting. So, you're confirming what I'm saying. You're someone who's experienced precognitive dreams, and you're saying that you've experienced it throughout your life. And I'm starting to experience this as well. And it's really getting me to think and know that my consciousness is not limited towards my body. Otherwise, how are these things possible? If I'm only existing here and now, and my consciousness is limited towards being in my physical body now, then how do we sometimes know things before they happen, or dream things before they happen, or have a vision of things before they happen? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. That's a question I'll keep wrangling in my mind. But I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with what it is I'm proposing and saying here is that, I don't believe hell exists. I'm going to go ahead and agree with that church father. I'm going to say that, church man, I'm going to say that religion is a control mechanism. It's a terrible control mechanism because it uses guilt, shame, and fear. It's predicated among our fears, the sum of all fears. Word of wisdom and revelation. It's predicated among preying upon our fears. And I don't think that's healthy. It clearly isn't healthy because I think it's responsible for a lot of the mental illness and disease and even issues we may have with addiction. So I don't think it's healthy. I don't think religion is healthy. I think religion's had its place, but if it continues to promulgate and promote ideas like being punished forever, I mean, that's just ridiculous. What loving God would do that to anybody? Punish someone for eternity. According to the Bible, the Earth's only like 7,000 years old. According to science, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, but that's theoretical. There's no proof, which I'm going to get into the next episode. This episode's nice because we're going into religion, and the next episode's going to be cool because we're going to go into science. So we're going to start exploring what does the scientific community have to say about the origin of life, how old the Earth is, versus the Bible, which approximates Earth being 5,000 to 7,000 years old. So, is it a young Earth or is it an old Earth? Is it an ancient Earth or is it really old? These are the questions we're probably only going to find out when we pass away, unless some huge magical spiritual phenomenon happens, which I feel will and might happen. What I wanted to discuss on the show was future predictions. We're going to call this Jesse's future predictions. I have some predictions. Before, what I predicted was that people would really delve quite deep into Christianity and existentialism and these existential ideas of the origin of life, how we got here, the nature of having a creator, who created reality, if it was created at all by anyone. I believe God does exist, but I believe what that guy said. I believe God is more than what we could possibly ever imagine, which we will come to learn and know as our destiny and predetermined lives. I don't want to say predetermined lives, but our destiny shows us that love and unity is the source of all reality. And that love and unity rests within the reality of God. And I believe, as he said, is that religion has been a tool to point us in the direction of understanding God. So it's quite interesting. I'm not here to force my beliefs onto anybody. These are just simply my opinions. And this is what's just simply going through my mind. So I've got some future predictions. I believe that people will invest a lot more time and energy into the Bible, into the origin of religion, and into the idea of hell and the idea of life after death. I believe that eventually hell will be disregarded as something that does not exist, because a just and righteous God cannot punish someone for all eternity. And I believe that we have so much stigmatism and dogma surrounding this issue that it feels scary to speak about it because we feel like we're doing something wrong. But this is part of our programming. We've been programmed not to think for ourselves, and been programmed to refer to things like governmental and religious authorities, which are telling us what to believe, which is quite scary and quite horrible, actually. But there's something within us that doesn't want us to look in that direction because we're so programmed in fear to not be a heretic. But Jesus was a heretic. That's what he was. But after Christianity was created, a religion created through fear and persecution. Ultimately, that's how Christianity was created, through fear and persecution. And many people had died. Many people were oppressed and enslaved because of it, and killed and forced to believe in these things. And we've created a culture of extremely judgmental people who are so unbelievably judgmental, because I believe somewhere in their mind, they're judging themselves according to this Bible that's telling them if they are not worthy, they will suffer for all eternity. So we're living in this unconscious fear where we don't even want to become a heretic. We don't, anyone who opposes the government's a heretic. Anyone who opposes religious authority is a heretic. We don't want to become a heretic because we're programmed not to be. We're programmed to fear it. We're programmed to oppose authority and to fear it, which is not good because it's not going to lead to any independent thought, which is going to allow people to become critical thinkers in order to determine what is a reality of love, reality of abundance and blessings. It's definitely not persecuting people to eternal torments and suffering. And it feels so horrible and sickening even speaking about this issue, but it has to be spoken about. It has to be spoken about. I don't really want to speak about this. I wish I didn't have to speak about this. Someone says narcissists love the Bible. Absolutely, I agree with you. Someone says the churches were infiltrated long ago by the same dark hearts who infiltrated all aspects of this world. Completely, totally agree with you. God Hearts Guardian says grand nowness. Secretary says, I don't think any big organization is doing their job correctly anymore, brother. They all use the name in vain, especially Jesuits. They are masters of deception, using Jesus' name in vain. But you must keep. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And Mary Boyd saying, I was always terrified of dying, but since the hoax, I'm not frightened of anything now. So weird. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to do here is try to remove some of this dogma. Dogma backwards spells I am God. Dogma spelled backwards, I am God. And we're all part of God. And God is part of us. And love is the key to all of our hearts. And whether people believe in Jesus or not, his message was a message of love, a message of everlasting life. And we're being saved with the truth that we continue to exist and maybe even in paradise forever. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, that's up to you. This is just simply my opinion and my mind perusing amongst this idea and topic of what is the truth exactly. And so in that way, we're all brothers and sisters, according to what it is I believe. So according to my prediction, I believe people are going to start having a lot more conversations like this conversation that's been had here today. And I believe we're going to deconstruct all this evil nonsense that religion has held as its preconceived notions for a very long time. And Christianity is an occult religion because, as I said, they have books and books and libraries and records that are so vast and profound that the Catholic Church is hiding a lot of stuff from us. And for as long as it continues to do that, and for as long as it is the reason as to why the Bible was written and why six books were included and why we believe what we believe, Christianity is an occult religion. It is a hidden religion. Not even the Pope is allowed to access those records. And he's coming forward like other people and saying that how's the state of mind, and sometimes having to retract their statements. Secretary said, have you looked into biblical cosmology much, Jesse? This is where people should start with the truth of creation. Yes, I have looked into astrotheology and biblical cosmology. I'm not arriving at any definite conclusions, but I'm just looking at all information and I'm just looking into my heart and seeing what it is I believe. I believe God exists. I believe we may not completely understand what God is. But either way, that's up to you. That's your own personal relationship. That's your own journey. I don't think anyone should force anyone or scare anyone. Maybe just guide people into the right direction. Yeah. And I believe that one of my future predictions is that this is the things we will start seeing take place. Allegedly, there are two pipe: the white pipe that we all see and the black, or the white pipe that we all see and the black pipe that runs the Vatican. Popes, yeah. Yeah, the Vatican is behind religion, Christianity. Let's be honest, guys. That's absolute gospel truth. And they've been behind the most violent and bloody religion ever. Jesus never created religion. God never created religion. The truth is the truth, no matter what religious organization is formed and exists, no matter what. The truth is we're all connected, interconnected. And I believe further than that, the truth is that we all very well may live forever. And that if we can come to understand that, then maybe a lot of our fears that cause a lot of the problems in our lives on a subconscious and unconscious level will dissipate and disappear and begin to heavily affect society at large. Because when you take away these horrible, awful concepts and constructs of evil existing as an invisible force that's somehow influencing everybody, and if they suck it into being influenced by it, they'll be persecuted and judged eternally. I don't believe that's correct. I don't believe that's loving. I don't want to believe in it. I'm just going to end that there and say, I don't want to believe in that. If you want to believe in hell, you're more than welcome to. I believe it's extremely damaging, extremely dangerous, and extremely evil. The concept of sending anyone to burn and suffer torment, burn alive and be tormented forever is evil. We have institutions for rehabilitation. They're called prisons. Even prisons are supposed to rehabilitate the worst of criminals. That's the whole point of them. They're rehabilitation centers, correctional facilities, penitentiaries. Take care, brother. I've got to bounce. Have a blessed weekend. You too. Thank you so much for dropping by. And I'm going to stream this weekend. Hopefully, you can pop by as well. So, that's some stuff to think about, guys. And I think I think it's been a good live stream, total of an hour long. I don't want to go any. I enjoy speaking to you. I wish I could have had someone to come join me and to talk to me. But I believe that there's truth in a lot of people, a lot of cultures. And if that truth leans towards love, then it really should be looked at. I believe love exists in all of our hearts, and I believe Jesus was a great teacher of that. I believe he did exist. I'm not so totally sure, or I'm not so totally convinced that the church, the Roman Catholic Church, is telling us the truth. I believe a lot of things are hidden. But time will tell. I just want to give people the message that don't fear something that is definitely probably not true. Keep the StreamYard link pinned for the next shows. Thank you very much. I will do that. So I think if we can get rid of that, and hopefully this will be the first and last time I speak about this, but I'm just letting people know right here, right now, that I don't believe that is a reality. I don't believe a loving God's going to condemn someone eternally to suffering. I believe there's, for an omniscient, all-powerful God and Creator, there's always infinite different ways to tackle that problem with love instead of hatred. And I've had to actually tackle this idea in order to heal my schizophrenia and my psychosis, and this terror and constant anxiety here that I've been feeling. I've had to tackle these issues, and I've had to become a heretic. And I've had to go ahead and say, I don't believe Satan exists. I don't believe in hell. And I believe in love. I believe in God. I wonder what God, I don't think I fully understand God. I don't think any of us do. I believe reality is very mystical and magical, and I believe things are going to become quite mystical and magical. I believe as people's minds open up and not held by these strict religious boxes, we'll be able to explore this Holy Spirit that is the great spirit of all that makes up all of us. Our Father's love is beyond unconditional when we need it. It will dissolve us into the ocean of His embrace and bliss. And that's how I also feel. I feel that maybe the reason we don't understand God so much is because we don't understand love so much, especially unconditional love. And you just said it right there. Our Father's love is beyond unconditional. And that is something that needs to be remembered forever, is that it's beyond unconditional. And what is love that is beyond unconditional? And what does that present? It most certainly, in my mind, doesn't present eternal torment and hellfire and suffering. Unconditional love is not likened towards unconditional hatred or conditional hatred. And maybe that's what that pastor was saying, that we're all here to learn about the human condition and learn how to become more human than ever. And maybe that is to become more loving than ever. So I think it's been a great conversation. You know, I'm not here to dictate what you believe about reality or God or any of these things. I'm just hoping that I can potentially contribute towards your own internal dialogue and your own internal discussion. It's leading you to arrive at your own conclusions, your own research. But my conclusions, I wish to be guided by love, and as Godheart's guardian said, love that is beyond unconditional. I think that's so beautiful. It's so well said. That's unbelievable, and I can feel it. And so I pray to God, and I'll continue to pray to God because I want to feel more of this love. I just feel that we have a bit of a messed up relationship with each other, ourselves, our government, our religion. It's not a good relationship. It's not one that's founded on unconditional love, which Christ came here to teach. He came here to teach people about unconditional love and forgiveness. That's what he did, you know, whether he's God or not, whether he existed or not, that's what the story says. He came here to teach love and unconditional forgiveness, something so powerful, something so magical and so wonderful. And if it wasn't for him, would we really have explored it? These ideas that God exists within our heart, God exists within our soul. And because of that, so does unconditional love. Our relationship towards each other, the truth of it is one that is of unconditional love. And if we have souls that exist forever, then why cannot a soul be forgiven and healed? And as it says over here about God heart, dissolves us into the ocean of his embrace and bliss, which I believe is part of all of us. So I think it's great to actually have a conversation like this and to have your input like this and for it to always lead back to love. It's love, man. And I believe reality is mystical and magical and lovely and wonderful, as that preacher said. And I'm really happy we've had this conversation. I think it's been quite a phenomenal conversation. And I think I'm going to end it over here. Thank you guys so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all your love and kindness and support. I'm so appreciative for everything. You being patient with me during this healing journey. I'm going to do another live stream tomorrow since I don't have anything else to do. And tomorrow we're going to be tackling concepts and deconstructing the religion of science, because we've just deconstructed the religion of religion. So that's where I'm at, guys. Oh, wait, hold on. Before we do that, all we need is love. Absolutely, Mary Boyd. I completely, totally agree with you. And so, yeah, if you'd like to support me, please head on over to Patreon. There's a link in the description below, where I'm going to be posting some other videos that you guys should really have a look at, which are going to help you delve deeper into where all these concepts and ideas come from, you know. I love you too, God Heart. Thank you so much for your love and kindness and support, and for such a wonderful message of love. I've actually, when I read this, Our Father's love is beyond, I felt deja vu. I feel deja vu right now. feel like this has already happened. And it's quite beautiful. I'm feeling a lot of deja vu. It's weird. It's so weird. Feeling so much deja vu right now. But thank you guys so much. I think it's been a lovely talk. I'm wishing you lots of love. I'm going to stream tomorrow at around about the same time. And tomorrow we're going to be going into science. And then maybe on Saturday we're going to be going into love. Because as you said, all we need is love. That's so true. We need to treat everything with love. I think it's fantastic. Mary Boyd says, looking forward to your next video, Jesse. Take care. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys very much. And keep well. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. And God bless you all.